Hello. The beginning of the Battle of Kursk was relentlessly approaching, a grandiose battle that was destined to become a decisive turning point in the entire course of the Great Patriotic War. However, the Soviet command faced serious and seemingly insurmountable difficulties in obtaining accurate and reliable information about where exactly, when, and with what forces the enemy planned to launch their insidious strike. Moreover, the extremely important question remained open as to whether this long-awaited offensive would happen at all, or whether the enemy would choose a different strategic plan. All desperate attempts by reconnaissance groups to penetrate deep into the enemy rear ended in complete failure due to the powerful and carefully thought-out defensive fortifications erected by the German troops. Dense and difficult-to-overcome rows of barbed wire, vast and deadly minefields, as well as the fact that the enemy was in a state of heightened combat readiness and full vigilance, expecting a possible attack and preparing to repel any attacks. And yet, at the most critical moment, a man was found who managed to accomplish the practically impossible and obtain critically important and vital information capable of turning the tide of the battle. This man was the commander of a reconnaissance platoon, the brave Lieutenant Vaclovas Bernatnas. The price he paid for this dangerous mission was truly enormous, both physically and morally. His exceptional feat, filled with heroism and self-sacrifice, received high and well-deserved recognition from the highest leadership of the USSR, and he became the first Lithuanian to be awarded the highest title of Hero of the Soviet Union, which was not only a recognition of his exceptional courage and selflessness, but also a symbol of unwavering will and the pursuit of victory. Son of a Lithuanian worker. In the distant year of 1917, in the Estonian city of Reval, now Tallinn, Vaclovas Bernatnas was born. Soon after Lithuania gained its long-awaited independence, his family decided to move to the picturesque city of Kaunas. There, he successfully completed 3 years at a prestigious university and later a military school, receiving an excellent education and military training. The accession to the Soviet Union in 1940 was received by the young and ambitious Vaclovas with great enthusiasm and optimism. As the son of a simple worker, he was a staunch supporter of progressive socialist ideals, which significantly distinguished him from many of his fellow soldiers and compatriots who held different political views and beliefs. In early 1942, Vaclovas was drafted into the Red Army, where he was sent for training to an artillery school. After successfully completing his training, he was assigned to the 16th Lithuanian Division, where more than 70% of the personnel were from Lithuania, including 36% ethnic Lithuanians and 29% Jews. Many of these soldiers had rich experience in regular military service, which made the division combat-ready and professional. On the 21st of February, 1943, near the city of Orel, the division had its first baptism of fire, entering into fierce battles with a superior enemy, where it showed fortitude and courage. A cunning plan. We ask you to subscribe to our channel, give us a like, so that you can hear many more interesting stories about the Second World War and the opinions of all the participants on certain events. In June 1943, at the height of preparations for the Battle of Kursk, Lieutenant Bernat held the responsible position of commander of a reconnaissance platoon of the 156th Regiment. For several long and anxious nights, his brave scouts made unsuccessful attempts to penetrate deep into the enemy rear in order to capture the tongue so badly needed by the command. But all these risky forays ended in failure and significant losses. Then, under conditions of extreme time and information scarcity, Vaclovas proposed a daring and unconventional plan, which, to the surprise of many, received the approval of the regiment command, which finally saw the potential for success in this plan. In the area of a small and inconspicuous village of Nikotovka was a strategically important and fortified height 235.0. A bold and risky decision was made to conduct a day attack with elements of reconnaissance by combat and the subsequent capture of a tongue. At night, sapper units, risking their lives, made passages through dense minefields, and in the morning of the 25th of June, artillery units began an intense and massive shelling of enemy positions. For half an hour, the artillery methodically processed the enemy trenches, destroying wire barriers and suppressing enemy firing points. At 7 o'clock, after the end of the artillery preparation, a company of submachine gunners launched an attack, which included a reconnaissance platoon under the command of the brave Bernatnas. In the initial stage of the battle, the German soldiers, taken by surprise by the massive shelling and rapid attack, were disoriented, which allowed the Soviet infantrymen to approach the foot of the height. But soon they recovered and opened heavy and accurate mortar fire. Fragments from exploding mines wounded Vaclovas in the chest and neck, but despite the severe wounds and severe pain, he continued to command his platoon, paying no attention to his own safety. The commander, overcoming the pain, personally burst into the enemy trenches, where he engaged in hand-to-hand combat with the enemy. After the capture of the enemy trenches, unfortunately, it turned out that as a result of the hand-to-hand combat, none of the German soldiers had survived. The infantry, driven by rage and a thirst for victory, showed excessive zeal, which in turn created the need to storm the second, no less fortified line of defense. This time, the fighters managed to capture 2 tongues, as well as find valuable documents and maps of enemy officers, which were of strategic importance. However, soon German troops counterattacked, throwing significant forces into battle that outnumbered the advancing ones. Bernatnas, realizing the full seriousness of the situation, ordered the prisoners and trophies to be immediately delivered to the rear, so that the information obtained would not fall into the hands of the enemy. The severely depleted company, following orders, retreated, and Vaclovas remained with 5 brave fighters of his platoon to cover their retreat, holding back the onslaught of superior enemy forces and demonstrating wonders of heroism and fortitude. For 8 long and tense hours, a handful of scouts heroically held the defense. They fought off the attacking enemies with grenades, fired continuously from machine guns and PPH submachine guns, inflicting significant losses on the enemy and demonstrating their indomitability. When the ammunition ran out, they, without losing their composure, began to use grenades and weapons found in the captured enemy trenches. At this critical moment, the platoon commander was seriously wounded in the legs by shrapnel, but even this did not break his spirit. He ordered 2 comrades to retreat immediately, promising to cover them. But the Lithuanian communists, driven by a sense of duty and loyalty to their comrades, refused to leave the commander in trouble. As a result, the officer was left alone, receiving another severe injury from a grenade that exploded nearby. After that, exhausted and bleeding, he rolled down the height, which, in the end, paradoxically saved his life. When Bernatnas regained consciousness, it was already dark. The lieutenant, gathering his last strength and will to live, crawled towards the location of his troops, overcoming 800 difficult meters. It took him a full 7 exhausting days. He often lost consciousness from exhaustion and unbearable pain, drank meager dew and ate grass to somehow recover his strength. The commander repeatedly got lost and ended up in minefields, but then, showing ingenuity, he guessed to set up stakes to move in a straight line. At dawn on the 3rd of July, the exhausted and half-dead platoon commander was noticed 30 meters from the Soviet trenches and immediately sent to a medical battalion. There, the seriously wounded front-line soldier learned that he had been posthumously nominated for the highest title of Hero of the Soviet Union. The captured tongues, documents, and maps turned out to be extremely valuable and provided the command with important strategic information about the enemy's plans and intentions. Bernatnas's feat, given his heroic defense of the height and his incredible return to his own, was, without any doubt, outstanding and unique. In June 1944, Vaclovas Vaclovi was awarded the high and honorary title of Hero of the Soviet Union. He was the first Lithuanian to be awarded this highest state award. The platoon commander, after a long and difficult treatment, returned to duty and continued to command the scouts, showing miracles of heroism and courage. He personally captured quite a few tongues, performed many feats, for which he was deservedly awarded the Order of the Patriotic War, which was another recognition of his courage, selflessness, and devotion to his duty. After the end of the Great Patriotic War, Captain Bernatnas, after demobilization, worked in the Republican Library in Vilnius, contributing to the development of culture and education. After his death, in recognition of his great services to his homeland, streets in 3 Lithuanian cities were named after him, becoming a kind of monument to his valor and heroism. A memorial plaque was installed on the house where he lived to perpetuate the memory of his great exploits. However, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Bernatna street remained only in Radvilikis. The memorial plaque was removed from the house, since in modern Baltic countries they honor other heroes, who have a different interpretation of historical reality. Goodbye. We were glad to see you on our channel. Don't forget to write comments, like, and subscribe to the channel.